Food prices soared to a record rate in December, with some households skipping meals to save money. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Mario Rohrer, who's at Sky News Centre for us. Mario, good morning to you. So tell us about food prices. They're still going up.
Well, unfortunately, we've got quite a stark level of figures coming out of the British Retail Consortium this morning. So not good news for shoppers. We've got 13%. We've got a food inflation at 13.3%. You can see there from the British Retail Consortium. That's actually up 1.1% from last month. That's also the highest inflation rate in that category on record. So really, really squeezing household incomes. Then if we turn to fresh food inflation, that's even higher. That's gone up to 15%, which is a 0.7% increase on last month again. And again, that is a record-breaking inflation rate for that food category as well. Now, potentially a silver lining is the shop price inflation, which has actually fallen slightly. It's fallen 0.1% down to 7.3% here. So that potentially is some level of hope. But nonetheless, inflation and food inflation is still massively, massively high, which is very, very difficult for households at the moment. And especially this is going to disproportionately affect lower income households who are obviously going to be spending more of their daily salaries, their monthly salaries on essentials like food and energy. Now, it's important to think, okay, why is this happening? Well, energy prices are high at the moment because of the knock-on effect on the war in Ukraine. Also, the war in Ukraine is impacting the price of animal feed and fertilizer as well. So it's all making it more expensive to not just ship out the food, but actually produce it in the first place. But also, at the moment, inflation is so high, even if perhaps it is falling, household incomes are not going to see the benefit until it falls much more drastically. And that politically is a bit of a difficult situation for Rishi Sunak. The government are very much hoping and banking on inflation falling as soon as possible so that they can essentially try and get back round the table with striking workers and say, here we are, inflation's coming down like we said it would, and therefore now strikes are no longer necessary and we can find a deal. But until that happens, households all across the country are really going to feel the pinch. They're going to find it very, very difficult. And if we have any very, very cold snaps coming up in January and February, they're going to end up spending more money again on energy, which is going to squeeze them even further.
Tens of millions of American families continue to struggle to afford 7 days' worth of groceries. That's according to a new study conducted by Hunger Free America. Data showed the number of people who self-reported being without enough food increased more than 29% between October of 2021 and 2022. This comes as food banks across the country reevaluate how they can help communities in need. For more on this, I want to bring in Brian O'Rian. He is the Director of Brand Marketing and Communication at the Bowery Mission in New York. Thanks for being here, Brian, and a Happy New Year to you. Talk us through how inflation in 2022 have impacted food insecurity in your community and elsewhere, and how it's also impacted your ability to meet the needs of the people that you serve.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. As prices begin to go up and as inflation begins to squeeze into the pockets of lots of New Yorkers, especially, we start to see everyone just struggling a little bit more. In fact, in the last couple of months, we've seen an increase of about 20% of people coming to our front doors. Now, we feed almost 1,000 people who come to our doors every single day. And so as that puts pressure on people, we see those numbers increasing. And of course, that puts pressure on us as well. As a nonprofit that's been around for more than 150 years and 100% privately funded, we see the effect of inflation on our daily ability to feed thousands of people.
Brian, I've been following this story since the beginning of the economic crisis. And one of the things that I've been struck by, not just this 1-2 punch that you're describing, but how much people have been trying to help each other, particularly in the worst of times. I'm wondering, have the holidays impacted your donation levels, the stockpiles of items that are available at food banks? Are people opening their wallets and their hearts?
Yeah, we've seen, unlike previous times past, this year seems to have been a little bit of a struggle when it comes to receiving donations. So we've definitely seen a dip in the amount of holiday donations that we've been getting. But nonetheless, we've seen incredible generosity from New Yorkers who've carried us through this incredibly difficult time for our guests and clients. And of course, I have to mention volunteers. We host about 6,600 volunteers every single year. That is a huge help for a mission such as ours that's simply trying to make ends meet and to support people.
Right, I'm so glad you brought up volunteers. And it makes me think that aside from just monetary donations or donations of food, what else can people do? What else do food banks need right now?
Yeah, definitely spending time at the mission, giving us of your valuable time is one of the most incredible gifts you could give to people. And just your presence is an encouragement to people who might find themselves unhoused even for a moment. Other things would be things like clothes, socks, underwear, coats, hats, shoes, and anything that people could use during these cold months. And of course, not to mention things like water and coffee and all the food that we need for our daily supplies.
Well, inflation is impacting families everywhere, and it's estimated that about 500,000 people here in Connecticut are struggling with hunger right now. Channel 3's Stephanie Simoni caught up with a family who's trying some new ways to cope with the rising prices of basic necessities.
Food is a basic need.
It's been tough, very, very tough.
But for Lori Martin, she needs to feed others. It's what she loves to do. In fact, she spent 30 years working in the cafeteria of a Simsbury elementary school.
I got to feed them every day, enjoyed them, and it was great. I like to feed people. I had my own 4 kids. I love to feed them. I just like to feed people.
So you can imagine how tough it became when she retired, her husband lost his job, and inflation caused grocery prices to skyrocket.
And it's tough because I don't have a full paycheck no more.
Your paycheck gets cut. And so we were having a difficult time, paying the bills and buying groceries.
That's what brought them here to Granby's Hope for Life food pantry at Life Church, New England.
The first thing they'll do is go down to the end here and grab a shopping cart.
Pastor Al Royale gave us a tour.
And people just can't make ends meet. You add that to the cost of oil, electricity, clothing, whatever, any food that they can get here, that frees up their dollars to do something else in their home.
The Martins never relied on a food bank before, but their daughters saw them struggling, as she once did.
I felt horrible constantly having to ask my family and my friends for food all the time. And it just got to be where I needed help. I really needed food for my kids.
That's why they are grateful for these shelves and Connecticut Food Share, which helps to keep them stocked. But the nonprofit is not immune to inflation and supply chain issues.
Inflation has impacted us in regards to our inventory, the amount of product that we get that is available to our partner programs.
Last month, they had to take $500,000 out of reserves to cover food purchases for the end of the year to help programs like this one in Granby.
It just was overwhelming. I couldn't, the feeling of care and trying to help you out and, just doing things for you.
Laurie is so appreciative, she's giving back by doing what she loves to do, feeding others and volunteering at the pantry.
And come in and help other people and pay back, what people have done for me. People have been so good to me through my life.